Well, hello. Happy New Year to all of you. I am so excited to start the year with many of you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I find that this is the time to really be thinking about where you want to end up in the next 9 to 12 months. And for me, goal setting is more than just putting some things on paper. It's really taking a look at what am I doing today? What am I doing each week? And am I setting myself up to leap in the direction I desire? So I could not be more thrilled to share these 5 steps with you today. And the fact that you clicked on this link and you started watching this presentation means that you're probably looking for something, some insight, some action that you can take to make your goals a reality. And I ask you to give yourself permission for the next 30 minutes to really think about where are you and where do you want to go? And then use these steps to help you start to cultivate the energy you need to make that a reality. And for many of you, we spend so much time in our schedule and in our job that we don't really give the time necessary to plan for our next level of impact. So this time is for you to work on your career and not necessarily in your career. And the beautiful thing about this is that we're getting together on January 28th. So if you have any questions or you've tried some of these things or you feel like you're blocked, you can join us and we can have a live discussion. Now, for many of you, I may have met you already on the road. I've been fortunate enough to join women of the channel to participate in many of their events, both in the region and in New York City. So it's very possible we have met before and we've shared some insights and had some great discussions. Or this might be the first time you're joining us and we're thrilled to have you and hopefully we'll meet in person soon. But I'd also like to share that Women of the Channel is not only working to elevate, advance, and encourage women within the network, we've actually also been working with men as allies that are interested in helping cultivate the path for women into more leadership positions. So you are in great hands. We are glad you're here, and we're looking forward to spending this time with you. Now, for those of you that may know me a little bit or not at all, it's very likely that I'm going to be sharing very specific strategies that come from my second book, Accelerate Your Impact. It's won many awards and it's also been listed as the 100 top business books for women by women. And it's likely I'll sprinkle in a few strategies here and there from my first book, The Working Woman's GPS. I have to share, I never really thought I'd be an author. I have a degree in computer science. I started in technology right out of college, which was almost 3 decades ago. But I really felt there was a need to help women figure out how to maneuver the landscape. I know I struggled many twists and turns, and it took a lot of sponsorship, working with the right projects, and having many things kind of fall for me that allowed me to get to different levels and different organizations. And once I had children and I had a little bit more perspective, I started researching to see why it's so difficult for women to leap in the direction they desire. So I've taken many of these research studies and put them into actionable strategies, some of which I'll share with you today. So be sure you pull out a notebook as these 5 exercises will be really critical for you as you start to consider, plan, and even leap in the direction you desire. And if you stay until the end, I will have some free chapters for you. So you can take it, read it, and join us on January 28th where we can have a very active discussion. So let's get ready, pull out your notebook, let's get started. So I suspect that you likely joined this session because you have aspirations to increase your influence and impact. And I often position it that way because many women don't always necessarily want to go up in the org chart. Many of them are interested in taking on a new committee, starting a program in their organization, maybe starting an initiative in their local schools, or even being on a board. So whatever it is for you, I'd like you to think about the next 18 to 24 months. And then think about what professional goals do you want to achieve during this time. Take a minute, write it down. And if you're driving or running or taking a walk, I think this is a great thing to go back to. There's 5 questions I'll ask you, and this is the first one. So come back when you have a notebook and you can jot down some ideas. Now, for some of you, as soon as you start to write down your goals, your mind starts to take over. And it may start sharing with you many things that will prevent you from making those goals a reality. Some of the common things that my head starts with is, I can't. I'm tired. I don't have the energy to do this. I'm not ready. I'm not even sure how to make this happen. And I need X, Y, and Z to happen before that's even possible. I think for many of us, this is our reality, is that we have big aspirations, but in many, many instances, we completely sabotage our goals before we even get started. So with that, I think it's important for number 2 is, what obstacles do you need to work around? What obstacles do you need to work around? And some of these obstacles could very well be in your head, but you could also have childcare situations. Maybe you're taking care of your parents. Maybe you have family obstacles based on last year. What are some of the things that are preventing you from thinking your goals are achievable? And then what I do is I write down all of these obstacles. What are all the things that are getting in my way? And then I rank them. Or I draw them in bigger circles. The ones that seem to be bigger obstacles, I draw bigger circles around them. And then I have a conversation with my girlfriend or my coach, and I say, are these really obstacles? Are there things that I can work around, or are these going to hold me back? I don't think I could really jump forward without talking about these conversations we have in our head. And this slide is very old. I would completely recognize it, but it is so relevant because it talks about Sonia and Tina and Cheryl and so many women that are at the peak of their career and the conversations they have with themselves. And if you're anything like me, I didn't realize how often I was sabotaging my own progress or my own momentum because I was often telling myself, it's not possible, you're not ready, you need another degree, who's going to take you seriously, or how could you possibly make that work with everything else happening in your life? If this is you, I'm with you. And it took me a long time to really understand the stories in my head. And in fact, I had taken many classes, I've read some books, and even downloaded some apps. But it wasn't until I signed up for an 8-week course on mindfulness with the basis of John Kabat-Zinn's information and material. It wasn't until I sat with an instructor that walked me through how you actually learn to meditate and be mindful. And boy, was I surprised. I had so many stories in my head, so many conversations happening that I was completely unaware of. So this is really just to show you, you are not alone. If you're having stories in your head, if these stories take over your actions, this happens to many of us. And I think for many of us, it's really just getting an idea of what is happening in your head. And to just further emphasize that you are not alone, I collected a lot of stories for my second book. And I have a fear chart that really highlights so many of the things that have happened to women in the workplace that they have convinced themselves to either push through or hold themselves back. So if you can relate to these, or you feel the need to put your own stories in here, the question you should really be asking yourself is, did you let fear hold you back, or were you fearful but you still pushed through? So with this, a few of the highlights are, I was interrupted so many times I wasn't sure my input was necessary or appreciated. I don't think I'd be considered for the role if I applied. My boss told me I was not ready. I would love to be more technical or seen as a technical lead, but I often accept so many administration tasks that I move farther and farther away from the technical roles I aspire to be in. My ideas have been overlooked in the past, and I'm apprehensive to provide other ideas because I don't want to look foolish, or I don't want to be seen as not equal, so I choose to hold back. I'm getting older, so I want to stay under the radar. I don't want to bring any attention to myself. I've been asked to present at meetings, but I'm positive somebody else could do a better job, so I sidestepped that opportunity. In meetings, people look disinterested in my input, so I've held myself back from contributing. And I'm often fearful of having executive conversations. I struggle on what to say, so I often avoid these encounters at all costs. I am sure that most of you have found something in here that you have once held on to. And I think asking yourself at this point, have I pushed through that? Or do I still hold myself back? So many of you, for number 3, should document the fears that are holding you back. What are things that have prevented you from raising your hand, submitting an application, making that phone call, asking for help, or trying to get your name on the short list for that role you really aspire to be in? Now, some of you may be thinking, JJ, I thought we were going to talk about goal setting and achieving my goals. What I have learned in all my research is that it really starts from the inside out and that you really need to understand what's happening inside. So, what are your goals? And then, what are the obstacles you perceive and the potential fears that are holding you back? Because it's not until you really get under the covers of why you haven't leaped in the direction you desire. And yes, some of you may be saying, well, I've had the same boss forever and he or she just does not promote me. I hear you. And sometimes we have to change teams, and sometimes we have to have difficult conversations. I remember having a conversation with a woman that had sat down with her senior vice president many times, and each time she took on more to-dos in hopes that the next time she would get promoted. And when we chatted, we finally just decided, hey, this is the time. You need to go back to your leader and say, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. Either I'm going to get promoted or I'm not. Don't dare go back and take another to-do, letting another 12 months go by. I was afraid, she was afraid, but it was got to the point where she had done all the steps asked of her and she still wasn't getting the title. So if you're in that situation, sometimes it's just time to have a difficult conversation because sometimes people are just not going to promote you. I am happy to share that this particular woman had the difficult conversation because she kept showing up over and over. And she finally said, hey, I've been doing all these things you've asked me for the last 36 months. What is the position or the transition plan to move me into this next level? I was thrilled and relieved when she called me and said, you're not going to believe it, but they're going to promote me. I personally just think her boss was getting so much activity out of her that she felt like, well, she just keeps producing and not asking, so I'm just going to wait till she asks me again to be promoted. And maybe that was the story, maybe not, but this woman did ask for the promotion after she had shown up so many times, and she actually did get the promotion. So I'm not suggesting that's going to happen for everybody, but sometimes you just have to be realistic if you have the people around you that are actually going to help move you in the direction you desire. And for some of you, it could be very, very possible that you're waiting to check every single box. And this is a little bit easier to do when you're a little bit more junior in your career because it's easy to get a lot of different experiences. But as you move through your career, it's not always easy to get everything you possibly need to get to that next level of impact. And so oftentimes you have to stretch before you're ready. So if you have 60 to 70% of the qualifications, you can definitely raise your hand. You can definitely ask to get put on that short list, and you can definitely let people know you're interested because you're not going to always have it figured out. And especially in the tech realm, there's just so much to know, and you have to almost believe you can achieve it. And I think this is a great time to really talk about self-efficacy because self-efficacy was one of the criteria that the National Center of Women in Technology researched when they were looking at women that stayed in the field. They said women that stayed in tech and other STEM-related fields often had higher self-efficacy. Well, self-efficacy, you're not born with it. Self-efficacy is actually learned when you stretch before you're ready. It's an opportunity you create for yourself. So if you raise your hand or apply or move into to projects and situations when you're not 100% prepared, this is the time you build your self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is having a vision for where you want to go and believing you can achieve it. And the only way you actually grow this is you take on opportunities, projects, commitments before you're ready, because that's when you prove to yourself that you can pull it across the line even when you don't have all the boxes checked. And so if you're waiting too long before you move to that next opportunity, you may be preventing an opportunity for yourself to grow your self-efficacy. And in the book, The Confidence Code, Katie and Claire determined that success turns out to correlate just as closely with confidence as it does confidence. And so if you're taking more risks, you have opportunities not only build your confidence, but to build your self-efficacy. Now, I have to say that confidence is really having to do with the project, commitment, or opportunity at hand. I had a lot of confidence when it came to technology. I used to teach IP masking, I used to teach TCP/IP, frame relay, and other technologies. So I was very confident when it came to the OSI model and different technology aspects of the business. I could go toe to toe with most people in technology. But about 15 years into my career, I decided to have kids and I wanted to get off the road. And so a gentleman I had worked with said, you know what, just go into sales. You can do this for a couple of years and then go back into tech. Well, that was exciting. I was nervous. I didn't know if I could do it. And my confidence level in regards to being a salesperson was so low. I had no experience in sales, although I could explain the product inside and out. I didn't even need to bring my SE. But the problem is that because I had such low confidence in the sales arena, oftentimes when my boss or my boss's boss would go on sales calls with me, I would give away my power. I would say, oh, you know what? He really is the person that makes decisions, or you should ask him because he can get it done. Or I'm not really sure. Let's ask him because he makes all these decisions. And in all of those examples, I was giving away my power. Not only did I had the smarts, I just didn't have any confidence. And I constantly gave away my power in the meetings. And I looked foolish. And honestly, my customers initially did not take me seriously. So I think for many of us, it's really important that we believe we can do it, even if we don't have every box checked or every level of experience, or maybe even the education that our coworker, because a lot of people that I worked with in Silicon Valley went to Ivy League schools. I did not have that education. And it's a couple times in my career, people would point that out to me. But all in all, as I look back, I could go toe to toe, but I often didn't feel that way. And I think for many of us, not letting other people take your power and not giving your power away is really critical when it comes to work. And I think practicing or hiring a coach or creating a small network of people that you can talk through situations and they can cheer you on and you can gain the confidence through them if you don't have it yourself. So with that, think about where you can stretch. Where can you stretch? You may say, JJ, I'm already stretching. I already have so much to do. I'm working past midnight multiple days a week. But this stretching is a little bit more than that. It's not how can I get busier or how can I take on more to-dos. This is very calculated. Where can you stretch in the direction you desire? So how can you show up a little differently? How can you take on a project you're not 100% prepared for? How can you raise your hand to lead something that you may not feel you're completely ready? Now you may say, well, am I not just throwing myself out there to the wolves? This is not always easy, this environment that you may be thinking, I don't want to just throw myself out there and basically eat up all the political capital I've already created. But this is more strategic. How can you stretch? Because you can probably get it done, but you're just afraid that you're not 100% prepared. This is where I'm talking about stretching. This is like, I've done this or something like this. I can likely get this done. I may feel foolish raising my hand, but I'll probably get it across the finish line. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Where can you stretch in roles that you aspire to move through onto the next step? You know, when I started a program in my local middle school, I had never started a program for middle schoolers. I didn't know the first thing about it. It just took a lot of hard work, asking a lot of questions, and aligning to the right people. And I feel like that is the same strategy you often need in the workplace, is understand who's in charge, understand what the opportunities are, and how do you present yourself and position yourself to get access not only to the people, but positioning for that next level of impact. And honestly, if you're over 10 years in your career, you're not going to check every box ever because technology moves so fast and half the roles they're creating, they've never even done before. So they can't even tell you what success looks like outside of a sentence or two. So for many of you that are sitting there saying, I have more to give, I want to make more impact, this is the year. This is the year to raise your hand. This is the year to step up in new ways because honestly, we need more women at the table. So much around us is happening, and it's so obvious that we need more diverse thought and we need more diverse leadership. So hopefully, if you have aspirations to take on the next level of impact in your life, you'll stretch before you're 100% ready. I think 70% is a good mark. I know people that stretch at 40% and really take on opportunities to learn and grow, but I think for many of us, 60 to 70%, we should just raise our hand. And it's even best to get an accountability partner, somebody who's going to push you along before you're ready. I know many women that have people in the office that team up with people. They're not always women. Sometimes it's a man-woman combo. And they'll say, you know what, when the opportunity presents itself, can you suggest me for the role? So with that, you may need a little bit of help. Sometimes we can't get into these opportunities by ourselves. And in fact, this great Harvard Business Review article says that many women are lacking sponsors. And sponsors often give women some really unique perspective, access, and alignment. And so thinking about who is in your network, who can help you, and do you have people in your network that have more political capital than you do that can help you open doors, make connections, or find that next level of impact. In the article, it shares that because women don't have sponsors, they often don't have the stepping stones necessary to get into big leadership positions. And for any of you that have read Sheryl Sandberg's books, she often talks about critical sponsorships she's had throughout her career that have given her the right opportunities at the right time, that have paved the path for where she is today. These types of opportunities not only give you profit and loss responsibility, but often headcount and visibility. These are all really critical aspects, especially if you aspire to get into leadership positions. Individual contributors often lack the profit and loss responsibilities, the access, and the visibility. So taking these stepping stone opportunities that give you more of these experiences often prepare you to make a larger impact. So as you're sitting here today, what type of career catalyst do you need now? It would be no surprise if you said, I need a sponsor. Most women need sponsors. In fact, Accenture and the Glass Hammer did a study, and only 20% of the women said they had a sponsor. And a sponsor is more than a mentor. A sponsor is someone that will leverage their political capital to help you. So oftentimes they'll make a phone call for you, they'll get you on a short list, they'll send you to meetings you're not invited to, and they'll speak up on your behalf when you're not invited to a meeting, maybe adding you to a list or getting you positioned for a promotion. So career catalysts could be a sponsor. It could be mentors, people that give you advice when you're with them, or it could be a coach, somebody that you invest in to help you align your goals with your actions. So what type of career catalyst do you need right now? When I was moving from my sales position back into a technology position, I needed some help. I needed to understand how to maneuver the landscape. And so I hired a coach who helped me map out all the different people in the organization, both the decision makers in the role that I was in, as well as the decision makers in the role I hope to be in soon. And then she helped me build a path to make that happen. So for those of you that need a little bit of help, I think career coaches are fantastic. I have several in my network, which I'm happy to share. And I think for many of us, it's really about aligning all your activities into very actionable steps that help you make your goals a reality. And I often use a chart to do this. This chart helps me understand what projects I'm working on, if there are potential mentors, sponsors, or coaches that are related to that project, what actions they could potentially help me with to catapult me in the direction I desire next. What could I do for them? And do I need help now or later or both? I think for many of us, just really getting an idea of people in our network based on the projects we've already worked on that are familiar with our work that would be willing to help us. Because oftentimes, as you get farther along in your career, it's very difficult to do it alone. And you often need people that are going to help position you into new opportunities and exposure to new activities, and even give you line of sight to decision makers. So, really think about as you move through your career and the specific projects, opportunities, customers, or partnerships you're working with, that you have some ideas of people that you can collect along the way to really help you make your goals a reality. One thing I've learned for sure is that no matter how busy you are, it doesn't always guarantee that you're setting yourself up for your next level of impact. You really do have to spend time working on your career. As you get older, as you get more mature, opportunities don't often present themselves. You often have to align your work, your network, your aspirations, and your access so that you can create the momentum you desire to make your goals a reality. So, in summary, the 5 questions that we move through today are: what professional goals do you want to achieve? What obstacles do you need to work around? What fears are holding you back? Where can you stretch? And what career catalyst do you need now? I appreciate you staying with me, and as promised, here are a few chapters from my award-winning book, Accelerate Your Impact. You can download them now at jjdigeronimo.com/free chapters. And hopefully we'll stay in touch. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, and you already plan to join us on January 28th. And if you'd like more of this information, check out my new podcast, Career Strategies for Women That Work. This has been a real treat to join all of you, and I look forward to seeing many of you online in a few weeks. Feel free to connect, and I look forward to staying in touch.